Recording this okay, now will be recorded. All the evidence will be used against us. Hare Krishna. Welcome everyone. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Vishnu Padaya Krishna Vistaya Bhutale Shrimati Bhakti Vedanta Swami Namane. Namaste Sarasvati Devi Gauravani Vichaline. Nivasesha Sunyavadi Pashtatara Satanine. Jai Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda. Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shiva Sari Gaura Bhakta Vrinda. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Okay, so what I thought we would do is we'll just finish this last page of this chapter 26. And then I put up something on the screen to give us a clear picture of what we're actually discussing and the specific stages, of what we're speaking about here. Okay, so it'll be clear, and hopefully to make it a little bit clearer with all of us of what we're discussing and what direction we are going in. Okay, does that sound okay with everyone?
Yes, thank you.
Yes, Prabhu. Yes.
All right, so let's just we need some readers out there. If you just raise your hand. Okay, Kunamayi, you beat them all to it. Kunamayi cooked today's Raj Bhoga, wonderful offering. Hare Krishna.
So it's top of the page.
Yeah, in
Okay.
the beginning we have described.
We have described the two categories of Sravana-dasa and the two types of devotee who hear of Krishna. From that description, it is clear that there is little hope of progressive devotion for the devotee who does not fit into either category. The devotee who has little or no interest in hearing, needless to say, the non-reader remains in the neophyte sphere until that time as he is somehow prompted to become more serious in spiritual life. The stage of Sravana-dasa, especially methodical hearing, may be said to correspond to the 5 stages of bhakti: Shraddha, Sadhusang, Bhajan Kriya, Anartha Nivritti, and Nishtha. It is a staircase to advanced sadhana. Obviously, making each step requires one or multiple sankalpas, and how well each sankalpa is made will determine how accurately a sadhaka progresses and how easily he grasps the next spiritual challenge ahead of him. So it is until, by the continued hearing of Krishna's pastimes, a devotee becomes intensely desirous of entering them. Having ascended to the summit of Sravana-dasa, the sadhaka enters the next phase of his journey to Bhau, the phase delineated by varana-dasa. Varana-dasa. To summarize, Sravana-dasa is about a devotee hearing from Sadhu, Sastra, and Guru. The purpose of hearing is to acquire a clear picture of what his path to Bhav is and what major sankalpas he will have to make to reach Bhav. Until that maturity of knowledge is attained, a practitioner's chanting meditations are limited in their development. Both regulated and spontaneous devotees advance to their goal. However, the ideal is that a sadhaka awakens to spontaneous service, which is both efficient and effective in attaining perfection. Whichever the case, inspired by knowledge or by attraction, both Vaidhi and Raga sadhakas arrive at the culmination of Sravana-dasa when they resolutely desire to enter the pastimes of Lord through the systematic hearing. How a practitioner continues his journey is presented in the following chapter.
Okay, that ends chapter 26. Okay, let me just try and do this here. Bear with me. I was practicing beforehand and it seemed quite easy. Okay. Da-na-na-na. Hopefully you can see something there.
You're writing.
Yeah. Remember we did this before when we was doing
Yeah.
Sula Bhaktisiddhanta, I think. Now, just to give help us to have a clear understanding of what we have been discussing and where we're going. Now, we're discussing these stages here. Yeah. The Sravana-dasa, varana-dasa, smrana-dasa, bhava-pan-dasa, and prema sampati-dasa. Now, these are specifically different stages of absorption. Specifically, Maharaj is focusing this on, or Bhaktivinoda Thakur, they're focusing it on the different levels of mental absorption, or different levels of inner attainment. So it's divided into these 5 specific stages. Now, we've been hearing about the first one, Sravana-dasa. Okay. Now, as mentioned here, what we just read, if you come down, let's just go through these. So Sravana-dasa is a stage of hearing. We discussed that one. Now we're going to be looking at this one here, stage of acceptance or desiring. And then from that, we'll go to these next stages of remembrance. So within this overall stage of smarana, there is a specific stage of smarana that has specific steps, and that will become more clear when we get there. And this one, bhava-pana-dasa and prema sampati-dasa, this is quite self-explanatory. From here, you can see it's stage of bhava and life's perfection, which is prema. Now, the stage which we just been described at the end of, or in this chapter, especially at the end of it, is Sravana-dasa. And this takes you up to the first 5 stages in our more generally understood different levels of devotional achievement. And these, I think devotees are quite familiar with these now, isn't it? Shraddha, Sadhu Sangha, Bhajan Kriya, Anartha-nivritti, Nishta, Ruchi, Shakti, Bhava, Prema. So the first 5 coincide to Sravana-dasa. All right. Now, last week we spent most of the time we was reading about the 2 categories of Sravana-dasa: methodical hearing and random hearing. So methodical hearing means done with a systematic plan of devotional achievement, or you're desiring to become advanced in devotional service. That's why you're hearing. Yeah, and you're applying yourself to that in a very serious way, because you want to advance in devotional service. It's part of your life's plan or part of your devotional plan. And a little bit about it, just reminding us that Maharaj spoke of it in regards to here.
Can I ask something, please?
Please, yeah, ask away.
So let's say we go through almost all the stages and we arrive, I don't know, to Ruchi or Ashakti, and we make an offense. Do we fall down till the beginning, or we will still keep our position where we were?
Yeah, say if you're at Ruchi and you make an offense, let's say, sorry, not you make an offense, then
you lose everything.
No,
somehow you lost.
It depends on the severity of the offense, but generally you're going to go to the next. You're going to go back to this stage, Nishta. Yeah. And if you make a severe offense at Nishta, then you go back to Anartha-nivritti, like that. So generally you're dropped. Now it depends on the severity of the offense. If it's severe, if it's intentional and it's severe, you could uproot your devotional creeper completely. if it's that severe. But generally, say that's not the case. Let's hope that's not the case. So it might be sometimes, but generally that's generally rare. But it does happen. So you get the idea is that as far as I've understood, then even if you're at the stage of a Shakti, or if you make an offense at the stage of Bhava, then you could, it depends on the severity, then you just go down to one of the lesser stages.
Yeah, I understand. Can you advance quickly back, or this depends on everyone, different time and circumstance?
It depends on the mercy of the holy name. It depends on your reinstatement. In other words, say just like a king may have a servant, and if a servant does wrong, then the king may neglect the servant.
Yeah.
Even though the servant may be repentant and sorrowful, there may still be some time before the king actually welcomes him back into his personal service. So there may be some time.
Yeah.
Even though you may pay obeisances and beg for forgiveness to devotees, and that's what you should do, still it may be some time before you get reinstated again, for example, to the stage of ruchi.
Yeah.
And that's up to the mercy of, eventually by constantly chanting the holy name, then one will be reinstated into one's position from which they originally were, but it may take some time.
Yeah.
Okay?
I think I asked you once in Scotland a question, which again I will ask it. I think it's very important to chant your rounds. Do not be offensive, and as much as possible to concentrate. But let's say devotees sometimes they walk with a bead bag, and they are chanting, and that's actually offensive. How you understand that? Like, how could I say?
Well, it very much depends on the person who's doing it. Srila Prabhupada himself would often walk and chant japa in his morning walks. There's a video of him in Los Angeles in his quarters, and he's pacing up and down and chanting Hare Krishna. So some devotees who are more accomplished and maybe more accomplished in chanting, they may be able to be absorbed in chanting, even though while walking. Also, generally, it's advised for our japa, we should approach it like a meditation. We should sit down, and that offers less distraction. So it very much depends on the specific devotee. So we shouldn't be we shouldn't be too quick to anyone who chants while they're walking is making an offense. It very much depends on the devotee. For myself, my personal practice is that I never do japa walks with my 16 rounds. What I do is often I do, because sometimes I go for a walk for health reasons. So I chant my 16 rounds first, and then I walk and I chant. But my 16 rounds, I just stay put in one place, and often my eyes closed. But then I chant when I walk, because we should always chant.
Yeah.
Taking a shower, driving, whatever you're doing. But I don't actually count them as rounds. Because I know my tendency to look at trees and to look at people and to look at ducks and to look at things and to think of things and contemplate. Those type of things I normally do when I walk.
Yeah. Thank you. It's a bit of a paradox because it's offensive, but it's not offensive. There is a pastime when I don't know who was trying to bite his tongue in the toilet. He was chanting.
That was Lord Chaitanya.
And it was biting this.
It was, how anyone know that story? It was Lord Chaitanya was biting his tongue because he didn't want to chant the holy name in the
toilet
outhouse. And one young son of a devotee started preaching the glories of the holy name to Lord Chaitanya. Anyone know the name of that devotee?
Gopal Guru.
Gopal Guru. Yeah, that's why he was called Gopal Guru. And he said, my dear Lord Chaitanya, the holy name can be chanted anywhere. There is no restrictions to chanting the holy name. And Lord Chaitanya glorified him and gave him the name of Gopal Guru. So, yeah, so it can be chanted anywhere and everywhere. It depends on the individual. I mean, some devotees can. I mean, some devotees do that. They walk and they chant japa. So that's up to them to decide, and hopefully they are absorbed in their japa. But I personally find it difficult.
See,
What-
I can't do sitting down. I need to walk.
Oh, there you go. So Chanavali
You
does the
know,
opposite.
if I sat down, I'd be so comfortable that I'll probably fall asleep.
Yeah, so some people have that specific problem. So therefore, she will be practiced in being absorbed while she's. Do you chant in your flat there, or you walk up and down?
Yeah, in my flat, like you said, my 16 rounds has to be in my little room, walking backwards, forward.
Yeah.
When I go for a walk, then I chant extra, but that's not the one that's counted. But
Yeah, so you're going to have to. Each devotee is going to have to do a. What's the word?
according to your needs, according to your body, you have to work with your body.
Yeah, I
What-
mean, devotees
what
say
I
can't
find
sit down, so they fall asleep. So
What I find very strange, it is that I feel like an internal voice try to correct me when I'm chanting. Like before, I can just chant anywhere, but I realize sometimes just it feels like I should just retrieve myself in one place and
So
just
then
chant.
you do that. So then you do that. If you can do that without falling asleep, then that's good. Now, some things are obviously offensive chanting. If someone's chanting their rounds and they're driving, that's just clear-cut offensive.
Like me.
Unless there happens to be some type of Paramahamsa. But generally, yeah, if the best to avoid that, I think we mentioned that before when we was reading Harinam Chintamani. I mean, some devotees, I mean, anyway, I never used, when I was on traveling Sankirtan, then I was the only driver at one time. And so my party leader would get on my case to a chant while I was driving. And I used to refuse to do it. It used to cause a whole big unpleasant scene, So I had to wake up early and chant my rounds because I wouldn't chant while driving.
I do that. I do chant and drive.
So you might want to adjust that.
Yeah,
You should adjust that. You can't, because what happens, we discussed this before, because when you're driving, you should be concentrating on traffic lights, cars in front of you, cars behind you. You should be aware. So like, if you're in that habit, then when you sit down, your mind will be the same inattentive habit that you have developed while chanting and driving. You will sit down and your mind will be unknowingly distracted, even to yourself, you just be distracted. So you want to avoid that. Those 16 rounds should be taken as sacred, or for some of you, maybe 32 rounds is your standard. So that should be sacred. Okay. Anything else? Yeah, so back to this again. Methodical hearing. Prabhupada refers that to, I think I gave the example, one brahmachari who I saw had made a specific plan so he could definitely read. You could see he really wanted to understand the philosophy. So this is someone who really wants to understand the philosophy. Yeah. And then random hearing is, there is no specific plan. It's just, if you happen to hear something, great. If you don't, what's the big deal? There's no specific desire to understand, or no specific plan to, understand the different aspects of Krishna consciousness. So, and then Maharaj mentions at the end, he says that what we just read, over and above these two categories, from The devotee who has little or no interest in hearing, he doesn't even engage in random hearing, then there's no hope of progress. No hope. All right? Hope that was. So, unless there's any other questions, we can go into chapter 27, which is going to describe this stage here, varana-dasa. Okay?
Oh, Hare Krishna Prabhu.
Yes, please, Mama.
I have a question. Okay. I will just say A and B to name the two devotees. That will be easy for you.
Okay.
Okay, Prabhu. Prabhu,
Maybe that's why have I got this screen up. I'll put this.
yeah, A, like, A has been really offended. Actually, this A has the B didn't. Until today, B doesn't understand that A has been upset, but because A just accepted and speak to the person nicely, B has just taken it. Okay, she's fine. But actually speaking, it was a very, very, very difficult time for the A. And A went through a lot of difficulties and even literally cried. And A has to really struggle to come out, not to have any bad ill feelings with the B. So even A has apologized the B. Do you think, Prabhu, that Krishna has taken it in the same way?
Let
A
me
doesn't
just
have.
come
A
back
is very
to,
friendly to B, but
yeah.
B has not even realized B has done a big mistake.
Okay, so one devotee's made an offense to another devotee, and the devotee who was offended, let's just go here for a sorry. I think I understood what you said. Like one devotee has made an offense, and they've been forgiven by the other devotee, but still the devotee who is, at least externally, they said it's okay, they have been really hurt.
Yeah, she not even a word of apology or nothing. She just carried on.
Okay, sorry everyone who's taking my time to understand this. So who's the one who carried on?
Both are carrying on, both are okay now talking, but that mistake done by the B, has that been resolved just because A has accepted it? But sometimes devotees will forgive, but will Krishna will?
I think I thought I should have at the beginning. I thought you was I thought I understand now. And well, there's something called some of you may have heard of this in one verse in the Bhagavatam. It's mentioned that the dust of the lotus feet of the devotees. So that means that if you may offend a Vaishnava, and then you go and ask for forgiveness from that Vaishnava, that Vaishnava being merciful will say it's okay, I wasn't, it's okay, but they may be, quite offended by it. So point is that but that's what we should do. That's what we should, I think we just mentioned this as well. That's what you should do. You should apologize.
No, Prabhu, you have not gone and asked for forgiveness at all. No forgiveness asked at all.
Okay. So what did devotees think of that? Let's get some more devotees involved.
Yeah. But they do speak to each other. So much.
Okay.
So much difficult
What's going to
I
happen?
was thinking.
Go on, please.
Sorry,
Andrew,
I was thinking when devotees gets offended, it depends on what the person does. But sometimes the relationship cannot be restored back to its original relationship. It has to change because, if somebody does something bad to you, sometimes they may, you may have to change the relationship because you can forgive, but it doesn't mean that you have to be the same towards the person.
No,
Mahatma Prabhu said once, because I asked him, if you forgive someone, does that mean that, I mean, do you have to like have the same relationship? He said, no, you can forgive and not speak to them again.
No, actually, that's not my question. I understand that. That is right. Thank you for that. My question is, Prabhu, even the person is not feeling, even this offended devotee is not having any hard feeling. I wanted to understand what is the role of the Lord there.
Yeah, okay. I'll try and explain. So, what's going to happen there is that, say a devotee A offends devotee B, okay, and the devotee A doesn't go at any point to like this devotee, but they seem to carry on as if nothing has happened.
Exactly.
As if it's not important.
Yeah.
So what's going to generally happen? Some devotees are like this. Some devotees may be so habituated to offending devotees under the they may be so habituated to it in a subtle or a gross way. It becomes, then what happens is that their devotional mentality. No, we'll try and stop right now. Their devotional mentality, it will kind of degrade. Let me get this pen back again. So they may be at this level, but because they've offended a Vaishnava, they will come down to this level. Yeah, this is called a kanishta. Yeah, one who doesn't know how to associate with devotees. Yeah, then that state of consciousness will become the normal state for them. Yeah.
Okay.
For them. But then they will continue doing the same thing. So they will go down more. And as they go down, they will start to be, again, their material conditioning will then arise again, and attraction. See, what's happened is that it's been a gradual step by step going down. Yeah. It hasn't been a sudden going down. It may be just step by step. They make it, and they don't apologize to a devotee. That's an offense. So they come down to what they understand. To then subtly, they've actually, their consciousness has gone down, and they view their devotional practice and their general devotional mentality is quite. It may be quite critical. And they continue, if they continue the same, then gradually they will become overwhelmed. They will lose the taste and become overwhelmed with material desires. So
is that all? Sorry, is that all because we become too familiar with each other, and
well,
we start?
That is one of the causes. Become too familiar, and familiarity in the material world leads to contempt. It doesn't lead to contempt in the spiritual world, but in the material world.
Is that applicable in spiritual world also, Prabhu?
No, that's what I said. It's not.
Okay.
It's not.
Yeah.
It becomes more wondrous and more joyful the more you associate.
Yeah.
Sometimes, because we're conditioned by the modes of nature, sometimes that is the case, and you become. So therefore, we have to be careful. That's why it's always good to don't be shy, don't be to humble ourselves, and to beg for forgiveness if we think we have offended a devotee. Don't leave it undone and think, oh, it's okay, they're getting on with their devotional service, Like, I mean, I know one devotee who would do that. That was his practice, unfortunately, that he would make some offense, but then he wouldn't address it. This is devotee, not in this country, and he wouldn't address it. But he would just let time go on, let time go on, and then because the distance became, the distance from the sour interaction became like a month or 2 months or 3 months, then it's just expected that that was months ago, that's all in the past now. Let's get on with it. But no, it just, again, this is where devotee is become normal. You know,
Yes,
and then they become
uh,
habituated to making offenses.
life should go on.
Yeah, that's what they say. You know, what do you know that happened a year ago. You know, let's kind of move on from it. But the devotee didn't make any specific apology or beg for forgiveness. They just left it.
Mm.
You know, oh, here, get over it. Yeah, I got a bit angry there, you know, but it's not a big deal. Just give it some time, and we'll be it'll be all right. It's not all right.
So
I
Lord
see
is keeping
believe
every
it's-
record.
Sorry?
Lord is keeping every record.
Yeah, the dust of the lotus feet of the Vaishnavas. So then that devotee's general practice will become very weak, will become materialistic. This is a Kanishta Adhikari. What's the Acharyam eva hadaye pujam yashvatayati natnisha bhakteshu sabhakta prakrita smitaha. One who faithfully engages in the worship of the Lord in the temple, but does not behave properly towards devotees or people in general, is known to be a Kanishta Adhikari and on the material and is in the lowest position. One who does not know how to behave properly with Vaishnavas. So behaving properly with Vaishnavas, it means, in one sense, it means that sometimes you're going to make a mistake, or sometimes you're going to offend a Vaishnava. Okay, it's not so good, but it happens. But if you ask for forgiveness, and you ask for forgiveness, then that's what we should be doing. But still, as we mentioned, it will be some time before we get reinstated. So that's knowing how to associate with devotees, means knowing how to humble yourself before a Vaishnava and beg for forgiveness. Yeah. I've had to do that with, I think I mentioned before, junior devotees more than one time, where I know I've been a bit heavy. And I felt it was offensive. So, and then I would put my hands together at some point and beg for forgiveness. I mean, sometimes it depends on the specifics of it. Sometimes you can feel the relief almost immediately. It's almost mystical, especially if we're sincere. Then if you offend a Vaishnava, and then it should be in your heart and in your mind, it should be like a big weight on your shoulders, But when you actually manage to muster up some humility and you beg for forgiveness from the Vaishnava, then it's almost like it lifts off your shoulders straight away. If it's more serious, it may be some time before Krishna sees it fit to forgive you as well. But if we got faith, then we're ready to go through that. I'm not getting a taste at the moment. It's my fault. I know I've made offenses to Vaishnava. You please forgive me, and then you continue chanting. Okay, did that help, Mother Nitai Mata?
Yes, Prabhu, but I have another small question on that only. Now, if that other devotee
Let's just get. Does anyone else have any comments on this? Because me and Nitai Mata are getting into a whole conversation. I want to involve others as well. So, does anyone else have any comments on this, or are you quite happy to be hearing?
Yeah, I think you can't really answer it properly till you know the problem, and each one has got a different understanding. Like both of them would be understanding in a different way. So,
Yeah, but regardless of what the specifics may be, if you feel there might have been an offense, just ask for forgiveness.
Yeah, that, you can't, because each one is probably thinking differently.
Yeah.
And at a different level, different thinking. So they need to sit down to.
I mean, I've had quite some experience. I remember one time in the ashram where this one devotee, he had made quite an offense, at least from it was quite clear an offense, and then he came to this devotee and he said he could tell he said, well, it looks like I might have offended you, so I guess it says what I have to do now is bow down. But it was all and just pay obeisances. Like, it wasn't heartfelt.
Yeah,
the heart wasn't in it. He was just doing it because that's what it says in the book. So that he's not going to. So Krishna's not going to like that. It has to be heartfelt.
You need to mean it. You need to feel remorse.
Yeah, and you should. If we're sincere, then we should feel it. Now, it's not that we go around now completely paranoid. Kind of, I remember the guys used to come to the ashram, and every time I used to see him, he used to come up and down the stairs in the ashram. He's still around now, and every time he would see me, he would say sorry. I don't know. Every time he passed me on the stairs, he would say sorry, Prabhu.
Is that me?
Sorry?
Is that me?
No, it wasn't you. It's someone else. So, but we should anyway. Let's just summarize it. Let's just be aware of the effects. You know, it's there in the scriptures. We've read it many times. And just be careful how we interact with devotees. And if we think we may have made an offense, we should always want to apologize. And we shouldn't get into the habit of making offense. Otherwise, what I described here could happen, you know? We kind of.
Prabhu, I just wanted to add something with the Bhavana Prabhu said. Like if you get offended, like upset, just to make it, if you really want to get relief out of it, you pray that I don't want to be like that. And so that, you know, there is a lot of chance that you get peace. Even let Krishna decide about the other side.
Yeah, that's it. That's exactly what I was saying. So just continue your devotional service.
Yeah.
All right?
Okay, thank you, Prabhu.
Okay, nice little discussion there, a bit of a sideline. Is that okay with everyone? Should we look into chapter 27? We've still got 20 minutes left, so that's good.
This one, are we, in which, in the Sravana-dasa, we go backward? That means we go on the reverse with this type of offense?
Yeah, as I was saying, yeah. If you're varana-dasa, then you're going to go back to Sravana-dasa. You're going to drop down a level or two. It depends on the nature of the offense. Yeah.
Okay.
Okay.
Thank you, Prabhu. Thank you.
Let me.
Okay, can I ask you something about that then?
Yes, go ahead.
Okay, when you're doing in the service you're doing, you know, if you have to change things, then is it an offense? Like change services of devotees or?
So Chandravali does a schedule. So sometimes he has to change people's service, and sometimes they don't like it.
I don't like it, and it's bothering that I have sometimes got to be firm, change things.
No,
I really don't mean to hurt that person or any person, but when I see how the future should be going, or we need different people, whatever, so then I make changes, and it's
no, because your intent is for the betterment, or is for Krishna's service, and you're not doing it out of malice or envy to try and stop a devotee serving the Lord. You actually have a specific service, which means it's your responsibility to have an overall view, for instance, of the Pujari schedule and the overview of devotees in general, and how, you know, and the different availabilities of the service. It's for the service of the Lord. It's for the service of the Vaishnavas. So therefore you have to, therefore you have to adjust to things. So therefore, it takes a certain amount of advancement to be able to do this type of service. You know, you can imagine if someone was a young devotee doing the service of the schedule, and they're feeling a little bit envious of someone, and they start to do the schedule in such a way that they get no service. That would be offensive. But if you're sincerely trying to organize the schedule in such a way that it's good for the overall pleasure of the Lord and for the betterment of other devotees, then that's not an offense.
Okay, thanks.
Okay.
It's always a worry. It's always worry.
Yeah, managers, they have to worry about this. You know, we have to manage those who have to manage devotees. It's not an easy service. So we should do it. You have to be, yes, a certain level of purification that's actually needed.
Thanks.
All right, let's have a little peek into chapter 27. Let's, anyone else? Shall I stop sharing? Well, I can keep it up there for now, see how it goes. We have to use it. Okay, let's have someone read. Mother Chandravali, you have your hand up there. Sorry, Kunama, you just read a little bit there, but I had quite a good discussion, I think. It's always good to discuss offenses every now and again. It's good. Go on.
Okay. Acceptance and remembrance. What follows is an overview of the stage of varana-dasa. As the stage of acceptance that precedes smarana.
That comes before.
Before?
Oh, no, it comes after, excuse me.
Yeah. It precedes smarana, remembrance. Varana-dasa is the foundation for the practitioner's nam bhajan. The devotee who is attentive in Sravana reaches a conclusion which then leads him to the most significant Sankalpa of his devotional career. This determination is something like, as a servant of the Lord, I am keen to serve like a coward boy. The stage of Varna is where a devotee embraces a relatively specific spiritual identity in which he serves and observes an eternal associate of the Lord. This is the process outlined by Rupa Goswami with the word Tat Anuragi Jan Anugami. One should follow in the footsteps of the Lord's beloved devotee who are deeply attached to his devotional service. Needless to say, the phrase, I am keen to serve like a coward boy, is not like the childish speculation of a boy who dreams of being an airplane pilot or a football star. After studying Shastras and hearing from saints, after understanding the conclusion of what he has learned, and after being inspired by the specific kind of service to a form of Krishna, a devotee decides that that is the kind of perfection after which he aspires. And so he adopts a sadhana consistent with that aspiration.
All right, any questions on that or comments? Okay, we're going to deep water here, so I want to make sure we're all swimming along. If not, we can read on. It will
Well,
become,
the last
Maharaj is just introducing the subject, then he will break it down into more details. Okay.
The words acceptance and desiring are quite symbolic of the meaning of varna. The word varna is based on the verbal root var, which means to desire and to enclose. When a devotee intensely desires a thoughtfully chosen identity within which he fully encloses himself, he has reached the stage of acceptance. To give added clarity, a similar noun from the verbal root varna means color, appearance, and form. When a sadhaka is colored by the self-conception in which he aspires after a spiritual form and mood, similar to that of his role model, he has reached varana-dasa. A sadhaka will, at varana-dasa, embrace an attainment corresponding to his current aspiration. We say current because despite its eminence, varana-dasa is still a stage of bondage, and there, at the desire of a devotee, be he regulated or spontaneous, are subject to error. Only at the stage of bhav do those desires become fine-tuned and correspond with transcendental reality.
Okay, just stop looping. So we see it, if we go to this whiteboard again. So we're discussing number 2 here. So we can see that that's going to come after these 5 stages here. Yeah. 3, 4, 5. So it's going to come the stage of ruchi. It's according to this, it was stage of ruchi and shakti. But that's not bhava. So the stage of bhava, one is liberated. So in other words, it's a mentally, it may be, so what, in order to help a devotee's absorption, one is advised on the Raganuga sadhana to meditate on the particular associate of the Lord. Now, that can be done, it's not, you have to be at the stage of perfection or a stage of perfection, which is bhava. As Maharaj said, that can be either a regulated devotee, someone who's practicing regulated devotion, or a spontaneous. Only at the stage of bhava does the conception which they have become either or it can be either confirmed, or it may be even redirected, so to speak, the stage of bhava. Anyone ever, is that okay for everyone? This is varana-dasa. Silence, I guess, means
Yes, it's
if everyone's, it's quite deep. It's like you have to meditate on it a bit, but in essence, this is varana-dasa, where you actually have a specific resident of Vrindavan that you're specifically inspired by, and you're identifying not with them exactly, but their mood and their specific service. And you aspire for that spiritual perfection. So
yes,
that would be your role model. Yeah.
Yeah, because from that paragraph, I can understand that you kind of coming to a point when you deciding, you going towards something that you really like, and that's inspiring you, and then that's
it. And again, this is still in the stage of practice. So you're not, so generally it's, you have to go to it. You have to go towards it. Don't you sit there and wait to be struck by lightning and have an attraction to Pacific associate in Darwin. No, you actually read and I like that. That's really nice. That's really sweet. Oh, the exchanges are so sweet. The pastimes. Let me read more about this wonderful devotee and how they have such a sweet exchange with Radha or Krishna. It's so nice. Let me read more about that. Oh, I'd really like to have that type of, it's not at a stage of perfection. So you don't just wait again to be struck by lightning for these inspirations to come. If you're at the stage of being fixed in devotional service and you're getting a taste for the holy name, and that's why we should read Krishna's pastimes. Read Krishna's pastimes, and then Pacific pastimes may really just touch your heart, and the way your Pacific devotee, gopi, whatever it may be, expresses their prayers to Krishna, then it may be so attractive to you. So you hold that within your heart, and you're like that.
Then is it wrong to, you feel this, is it wrong to be able to express it, like talk with somebody or be able to say
you should keep it. It should be the only person you should speak to. It would be your spiritual master. All this, you don't speak here, there, and everywhere. This is one of the, should be kept confidential, because some people will criticize, some people become envious, and things like this, they're so treasured. They're like jewels that you don't show, especially as it becomes more developed. So basically, so in answer to your question, you're not going to be saying it here and there.
Advertising.
Maharaj brings this up quite a few times in Sutta Bhaktisiddhanta, and it's brought up here, and it's mentioned also by Rupa Goswami mentions this. And this is all internal.
Okay, so I ask you one. So when you're listening to classes, a specific thing, and all of a sudden you really come to an example that's really touching you, and you keep
You just like it. It's just inspiring for you. It's not. It may be just inspiring. Oh, I really like that. That's really nice. I really like that. Hear about that pastime and that mood, this specific gopi or gopa had with Krishna.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, it's not as if tears are coming from your eyes, in ecstasy, and you get, no, it's just
like Maharaj is like saying this is like healing thing.
Yeah, it's just like, just like we see, you may become, some devotees are, I really like Lord Nrsimhadev, I really like Lord Ram, I really like, it's the same, but like but then you really like the gopis, or you really like the gopas, or you really like the mood of Mother Yasoda. I really like that.
Murli Prabhu, it's like appreciating it, isn't it? When
Yeah,
you read
appreciating. Now,
so when I was reading this morning about Bhagavatam, you appreciate, you said, wow, something like that.
That's how it starts. You really appreciate. And then you kind of, then you meditate on that, and you like to read about that specific exchange. But this is all done. It seems like here, varana-dasa comes after here, when it's getting some taste. But that will be, hopefully that become more clear as Maharaj begins to explain it. And he's going to get into more detail so we can understand it more. All right. Anybody else out there? How many? We got 13 devotees with us. Hare Krishna. Okay, everyone. I hope everyone's enjoying the conversation. I know some devotees are unable to take part. I know that, but hope you're enjoying the conversation. If you want to add anything, any questions, please feel free. Otherwise, we can read on. Okay, you can, no other hands up there. Perhaps I could, 5 minutes. I'll have a little bit of a read. Okay, so the following is an example of a very specific varana that has a deep personal significance for Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, which his followers enthusiastically embrace. Now we know this verse. I'm not a Brahmana, I'm not a Kshatriya, I'm not a Vaishya or Sudra, nor am I brahmachari, a householder, a vanaprastha, or a sannyasi. I identify myself as the servant of Krishna, the servant of the lotus feet of Krishna. He is a maintainer of the gopis. He is like an ocean of nectar. He is a cause of universal transcendental bliss. He is always existing with brilliance. Now, Maharaj is bringing this verse out that we all know, but the reason specifically he's mentioning this as varana-dasa, because here, Lord Chaitanya has mentioned Krishna, the maintainer of the gopis. So that's the varana meditation of Lord Chaitanya, the gopis, in this verse. But generally we heard this verse so many times, but it's getting a bit more deeper. Lord Chaitanya is referring to this varana-dasa and being attracted to Krishna, who is the maintainer of the gopis. Yeah, that's who he wishes to identify himself as, specifically, not a gopa, not a gopi. All right. The following paragraphs exemplify varana-dasa and explain the restriction on the process being described. Yeah, good. In his Harinam Chintamani, Thakur Bhaktivinoda describes how a Raganuga sadhaka who comes to know of the 11 attributes, Ekadasi Bhavas of the Vrajvasis, enters the stage of varana-dasa. A Vrajvasi is identified by 11 characteristic traits that apply equally to gopas and gopis, which are. So that is the specific relationship, the age, the name, the form, the group, the garments, the service, the residence, the fidelity to a group leader, highest aspiration for mercy, and underlying nature. So that's more developed varana-dasa. For details of these bhavas, we refer to the reader to Bhaktivinoda Thakur's Jai Vidama. Now, we only got a few minutes left, but we should leave it. We shouldn't leave it open-ended here. Anyway, let me read on. When a pure-hearted practitioner expresses an attraction to follow a resident of Raj, his spiritual master will consider whether his disciple is qualified or not. That's an important point we haven't mentioned yet. Yeah. If the disciple is eligible, this is for more advanced, the fully realized guru will empower his disciple with a specific set of ekadasa bhavas. Acceptance means that the sadhaka embraces these 11 attributes as the basis for his spiritual identity and subsequent meditations. Vaishnava writings describe how such a confidential exchange took place in times past. Now that is known as, what's the word for it again? Just escaped my mind. We read it, Bhaktivinoda Thakur speaks about it in Harinam Chintamani. It's called siddha-pranali. So that states siddha-pranali. Now, the next part is important, but that is no longer the case. Why that's so requires some attention. Before we continue our study into Varana, this brief diversion is necessary, because while revelation of the 11 bhavas is authentic, so siddha-pranali is authentic, Bhaktisiddhanta Sarasvati Thakur and Srila Prabhupada deemed the process unsuited to preaching Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's mission. Remember when we was discussing in Sudha Bhakti Chintamani the upper sampradayas?
Yeah.
And how the Radhakund Babajis accused Bhaktisiddhanta of deviating, of being a deviation. This is what they say is the deviation. He deviated from the process of siddha-pranali. Yeah, remember we had that. So they accuse, interestingly, they accuse Bhaktisiddhanta of being a deviant from the path, from this specific path, from this siddha-pranali. Okay. Bhaktisiddhanta and Srila Prabhupada deemed the process unsuited to preaching Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's mission. They favored an equally authentic approach that was also approved by Bhaktivinoda Thakur, which was to encourage devotees to engage in bhajan in service to the holy names. Time check 2 minutes. There are good reasons why Srila Prabhupada and Bhaktisiddhanta Sarasvati discontinued this process for their institutions and considered it too risky for the guru-disciple relationship. The practice of bestowing the 11 bhavas, also known as siddha-pranali, requires that the spiritual master actually realizes his own eternal form and that the disciple is suitably pure in spontaneous devotion. However, in a worldwide preaching mission, all spiritual masters will not be siddhas. Indeed, because Uttama Adhikaris are rare, they will be the exception and not the rule. And yet Srila Prabhupada will say that to bring Krishna consciousness to the world, we require many millions of gurus. That means that both Kanishta and Madhyamadhikaris may take up the service of guru, but they cannot offer the 11 bhavas. To do so will be nothing but unproductive imitation. Additionally, disciples generally lack the requisite qualification to receive such a meditation. And even if qualified gurus and disciples do exist, were those gurus to give the 11 bhavas to some, not to others, the preaching efforts would be soiled with envy, competition, cheating, and endless ills. And we'll just finish on this paragraph here, these two here. Or this page here. Sorry, we might go over 1 minute or 2 minutes. Hang on in there. Unfortunately, the historical reality is that by the unqualified application of this siddha-pranali process, malpractice appeared in Gaudiya Vaishnavism soon after Lord Chaitanya's departure. And over the centuries, authentic acharyas repeatedly had to save the sampradaya from the influence of such deviance. That influence and its dangers continue to the present day. Thus, Bhaktisiddhanta Sarasvati Thakur offered a safer form of bhajan for his disciples and followers, and he made known his opinion of those who still stuck to the sacred and confidential path of siddha-pranali. So this is a quote from Srila Bhaktisiddhanta. Those who have attained perfection in their bhajan have realized their own constitutional position. But nowadays, in the Gaudiya Vaishnava Sampradaya, some immature Pancharatrika mantras traders are presenting imaginary material names and forms as the goal of life and the path of perfection, siddha-pranali. In this way, they gratify the minds of their disciples, as well as disclose their own foolishness and ignorance of the Vaishnava literatures. What is the approved alternative for sadhakas who are eager to accept Vraj Bhakti or other forms of devotion? The answer is given in Srimad Bhagavatam. Constant chanting and service to the holy name of the Lord, Sankirtan, will be the process that reveals all necessities to attain ecstasy, including the 11 bhavas. Okay? I had to finish on that point there just to make sure we closed with a more comprehensive understanding. We didn't go running around looking for siddha-pranali. Okay, thank you anyone. Thank you everyone, not anyone. Thank you everyone. And look forward to Bhagavad Gita tomorrow. If you can join us for that, please do. Okay, hope this was of interest.
Prabhu, can I just ask a quick question, please, Prabhu?
Yeah, it's great.
You did say about we have to go to the spiritual master and speak. If the spiritual master is not in the planet, it is not easy to access all the spiritual masters.
Well,
So is it okay that we pray to the, like anybody can pray to the Lord? Lord will guide.
you can, but the principle is that we should have someone that we can reveal our minds to. There should be some shiksha instruction, some Vaishnava that we can go to and reveal our minds to.
So every devotee should have that. That means, yeah.
That's our culture. Vande Gurun Isha Bhaktam. We should have many guides.
Yeah.
Many guides, not just a Diksha Guru, but Shiksha.
Yes, Prabhu, but many guides are fine. But I'm just asking because when say spiritual master and this type of thing.
Well, sometimes we have to be, sometimes we don't, sometimes you just have to be a bit bold. I mean, I know one devotee where she was quite bold and she just approached an advanced Prabhupada disciple. You know, her spiritual master's left and she just said, please, can I take shiksha from you and be your shiksha disciple? And he said, yes. Now she's getting shiksha from him. So sometimes we have to be, we shouldn't be something in the matters of spiritual life. We may have to be a bit bold, approach a guru, approach a senior devotee and ask, please, can I take shiksha from you?
Okay.
Okay.
Okay, yeah.
We'll stop there for today. If anyone has any, by the way, if you do have any questions that come up on this discussion, you're quite welcome to put it in the comments on the YouTube video we put up, or you can just write to me directly, you know, if you have some after thoughts or after questions. We can continue the discussion like that, you know.
Hope and pray Sriram Maharaj is recovering soon, Prabhu.
Yeah, he is. He's on the road to, looks like slow. They're just trying to identify now. Okay, let's stop there. Thank you again, everyone. We have 13 devotees with us today. I really appreciate your coming and listening and taking part. Wonderful.
Thank you, Murli Prabhu. His Grace Murli Prabhu ki.
Hare Krishna.
Thank you, Prabhu.
Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare.